What if the entire U.S. Army met the Iranian army face-to-face in 2026? Who actually survives? I'm Miller, and today I'm breaking down every single piece of gear both sides are bringing to this fight. Smash that subscribe button right now, because what you are about to see will shock you. XM7. The XM7 is the brand new rifle that the U.S. Army is giving to its soldiers in 2026, and it is built to fix one big problem with the old M4 rifle. It fires a bigger 6.8mm bullet that hits much harder and can punch straight through modern body armor from over 600 meters away, something the old 5.56mm bullet simply could not do. The rifle comes with a smart scope called the XM157, which reads the wind, measures the distance, and shows the soldier the exact aim point on its own. Each rifle costs around $4,000, and the smart scope adds another $10,000 on top of that. The U.S. Army has already ordered more than 250,000 of these rifles to slowly replace the M4 across the entire force. The whole idea is very simple: one shot, one kill, even at long range, even when the soldier is tired, scared, or shaking. The gun and the scope do most of the thinking for him, so he just pulls the trigger. IVAS. IVAS stands for Integrated Visual Augmentation System, and it is basically a smart headset that turns a normal American soldier into a walking computer. The U.S. Army is paying Microsoft around $22 billion to build these headsets over the coming years, and each single unit costs close to $48,000, more than most family cars. When a soldier wears IVAS, he can see in the dark, see through smoke using thermal vision, watch a live drone feed from the sky, and see the exact location of every teammate around him, all at the same time, right in front of his eyes. He can even aim his rifle around a corner without showing his head, because the rifle's camera sends the picture straight to the headset. It also shows maps, enemy positions, and mission orders without the soldier needing to look at a phone or a paper map. In simple words, an American soldier is not just carrying a gun. He is carrying a full battlefield computer on his face. Iran has nothing even close to this in 2026. AK-103. The AK-103 is the main rifle carried by Iranian soldiers, and it is built on the famous AK-47 design that first appeared back in 1947. Iran did not try to build a fancy, high-tech rifle like the Americans did. Instead, they picked something cheap, simple, and almost impossible to break. You can drop an AK-103 in mud, sand, water, or sandstorms, and it will still fire every single time. It uses a heavy 7.62mm bullet that hits very hard and works perfectly in close city fighting where distances are short. One rifle costs only around $700 to make, while the American XM7 costs 20 times more than that. Iran can build these rifles in huge numbers inside its own factories, which means they never run out of guns, even if the country is cut off from the world. Iranian soldiers are also trained to fight in big groups, using pure numbers to overwhelm a smaller enemy force in narrow streets and towns. If the American soldier is a computer, the Iranian soldier is a hammer. If you had to fight inside a dusty, broken city, would you trust the high-tech XM7 or the simple AK-103 to keep you alive? Tell us in the comments. Abrams. The M1A2. Abrams has been the king of the battlefield for more than 40 years, and the newest 2026 version, called SEPV4, is the most dangerous tank America has ever built. It weighs around 73 tons and carries a huge 120mm main gun that can destroy another tank from 4 kilometers away with a single shot. It is protected by special armor made with depleted uranium, which is one of the hardest materials found on Earth. On top of that, the U.S. has added the Trophy Active Protection System, which actually shoots down incoming anti-tank missiles in mid-air before they can even hit the tank. Each Abrams costs nearly $10 million, and the U.S. Army has more than 2,500 of them sitting ready to fight. The tank can speed along roads at 68 kilometers per hour, and see enemies clearly at night through powerful thermal sights. It needs 4 well-trained soldiers to run all of its systems properly in battle. When the world thinks of American ground power, they picture the Abrams, a giant steel monster that is very, very hard to kill. Zulfikar. The Zulfikar is Iran's own homegrown tank, named after a famous historical sword from Islamic history. Iran built this tank for one big reason. The United States stopped selling them any weapons back in 1979, so they had no choice but to make their own. The newest version, called Zulfikar 3, weighs around 52 tons, which is about 20 tons lighter than the American Abrams. It carries a 125mm gun, which is actually bigger than the Abrams gun, but its armor and electronics are far behind the American tank. Iran owns around 100 to 150 of these tanks, plus about 1,500 older Russian T-72 tanks that they have upgraded themselves inside local workshops. Iran knows the hard truth. In a direct tank-to-tank fight in the open desert, the Abrams wins almost every single time. So they changed their plan. They hide their tanks in hills, cities, and tunnels. And they use hundreds of Toyota pickup trucks fitted with anti-tank missiles, called technicals, to ambush big American tanks in narrow streets. For Iran, it is not about winning face-to-face. It is about surviving long enough to tire the enemy out. F-35. The F-35. Lightning II is America's most advanced stealth fighter jet, and it is the single biggest reason why any war with Iran would start in the sky and end very quickly. This plane is almost invisible to most radars, which means Iranian defenders cannot see it coming until bombs are already falling on their heads. One F-35 costs around $80 to $110 million, and the U.S. currently has over 450 of them, fully ready for combat in 2026. It flies at nearly twice the speed of sound and carries smart bombs and missiles that hit their targets with near-perfect accuracy every time. But the real magic of the F-35 is something called sensor fusion. The plane collects information from satellites, other jets, drones, and ships, then mixes it all into one clear picture for the pilot. In simple words, the F-35 doesn't bother fighting Iranian jets. It destroys the radar stations, command centers, and air bases before Iran even knows the planes have left the runway. Iran has no stealth planes and no real way to stop it. Do you think stealth jets like the F-35 make a fair war impossible? Or is that just smart thinking? Share your opinion below. F-14. Tomcat. The F-14. Tomcat is one of the strangest cases in modern military history, and very few people around the world know about it. This is actually an American fighter jet built in the 1970s, and Iran is the only country on Earth that still flies it today. Back when Iran was friends with America before 1979, the Shah of Iran bought 79 of these beautiful planes. After the revolution, the United States cut off all spare parts and all support, so Iran had to keep these aging planes flying completely on their own for over 45 years straight. Today, Iran still owns around 40 F-14s, though only about 20 of them can actually take off and fight. They have built their own spare parts, their own radar upgrades, and their own missiles for these very old jets. Each plane is now more than 50 years old, and honestly, it cannot match a modern American F-35 in any real dogfight. But the F-14 is a powerful symbol. It shows the world that Iran refuses to give up, even when fighting with equipment that most countries threw away decades ago. Shahed 136. The Shahed 136 is a small, cheap, slow-flying drone that has changed modern warfare more than any expensive missile ever built. Each one costs only around $20,000 to $50,000 to make, which is less than a used family car in most countries. It flies low and slow, carries a 40 to 50 kilogram bomb on its nose, and can travel up to 2,500 kilometers before crashing into its target and exploding on impact. By itself, one single Shahed is quite easy to shoot down with modern air defenses, but Iran never sends just one. They send 50, 100, or even 200 of them at the exact same time. And this tactic is called a saturation attack. The U.S. Patriot missile used to shoot down one Shahed costs around $4 million per shot. So every time Iran launches a $20,000 drone and America shoots it down, Iran actually wins the money war. Iran now builds around 300 of these drones every single month inside hidden factories. This is the weapon that turns Iran from a weak country into a truly dangerous enemy on the world stage. MQ-9 Reaper. The MQ-9 Reaper is America's answer to modern drone warfare, but it plays a completely different game than Iran's cheap Shahed drones. One single Reaper costs around $32 million, which is about 1,000 times more expensive than one Shahed drone. But the Reaper can do things that no Iranian drone can ever dream of doing. It can stay in the air for 27 hours without landing, sit quietly at 50,000 feet high in the sky, and watch a single target from so high up that nobody on the ground even knows it is up there. It carries powerful Hellfire missiles and smart bombs that can hit a moving car with less than 1 meter of error. A pilot sitting safely in a room in Nevada, USA, can control a Reaper flying over the Middle East and fire a missile within just a few seconds. The U.S. has used Reapers to kill top enemy leaders, including General Qasem Soleimani in January 2020. Iran's drones are cheap and loud, but America's Reaper is silent and deadly precise. Which drone idea do you trust more? Thousands of cheap Shaheds or one super smart Reaper? Drop your answer in the comments. Ford-class carrier. The USS Gerald R. Ford is the biggest and most expensive warship ever built in the entire history of mankind. It costs around $13 billion to build just one of them, stretches over 337 meters long from end to end, carries 75 aircraft on its deck, and holds a crew of nearly 4,500 people living on board. In simple words, it is a floating city with its own airport attached to the top. Whenever America wants to show its power near Iran, they send one of these giant carriers into the Persian Gulf, and suddenly the U.S. has more air power in that region than most entire countries own in total. The carrier launches F-35s, F/A-18, Super Hornets, helicopters, and early warning planes, all ready to take off within just a few minutes. But here is the strange twist. The bigger the carrier, the bigger the target it becomes. Iran plans to send 40 or 50 of their tiny $10,000 fast boats in a giant swarm, hoping that even if the carrier destroys 39 of them, the 40th one finally gets through. So that is every single piece of gear the U.S. Army and the Iranian Army are bringing into 2026. One side built on technology, the other built on numbers. Tell me in the comments which weapon shocked you the most, and hit that subscribe button right now for more powerful military breakdowns coming your way.